Hello and welcome. I am Pravin Shekar, an outlier marketer and a raconteur and the host of the Outlier Marketer Show. In this show, we talk to movers and shakers, ideators, creative persons, and also those where we can learn alternative learning as well. What do I mean by alternative learning? You will know from our guest today. Any person who can make us think, act, and be different is going to be on the Outlier Marketer Show. And today we have one such person, Viji Hari. Viji is a speaker, a consultant, a serial entrepreneur, and an author. And she's an expert in preventing sexual harassment and in creating diverse and inclusive workspaces. So last weekend, I met Viji over breakfast, and she was talking a whole lot about diversity in a different aspect. Well, I am a marketer, and there is so much in common that when I invited her to the show, she jumped right in. So welcome, Viji.
Thank you. Thank you, Praveen, for having me on your show. Very happy to be here.
Beautiful. So today we will talk about diversity in marketing, and can diversity really help in doubling our growth? But before we start, let's get down to the basics, because each of us have different understanding and interpretation of what diversity and inclusivity means. So Vijay, the first question, according to you, based on your vast experience, what is diversity all about?
So, diversity, as we all know, we've all grown up. India is a diverse country, diversity with caste, creed, religion, gender, sexual orientation. So, in a nutshell, that is what is diversity. And when you bring it to workplace context, diversity is nothing but having employees who are diverse, belonging to the various sects of gender, the sexual orientation, which is part of the LGBTQ community, and the generational diversity that you're talking about, and cultural diversity as well, people from different region, religion, and last but not the least, 15% of the population which are from the disability group. So even they belong to this diverse community. So, and not just from the employee base, are you looking at your diverse customer? Are you looking at your diverse vendors, the stakeholders that you're dealing with? Are they all diverse? So that is what, in a nutshell, is diversity at workplace. And inclusion. Without inclusion, diversity is nothing. It's not. There's no point in just having a diverse workforce that is just spread across without any cohesiveness. Inclusion is when you bring all these diverse groups together and make them work together. That is what is inclusion all about. In a nutshell, diversity is nothing but the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, which are in different
Mhm.
shapes, size, colors. That and without that, you cannot put a frame together. And when you bring them all together and form a beautiful picture, when the puzzle is formed, that is when you have an inclusive workplace.
But Vijay, my question to you here, because the first part is all about setting the base, isn't it on a continuous role? Because as we grow up, we have become a lot more aware and therefore want to include a whole lot more diversity in. So it's not like once we sort and form the puzzle and it's done and then dust it and go off. There is something new constantly coming on, especially when you talk about gender diversity. We had Nirja Singh, a teenager, as one of our guests earlier. But when do we stop? Or is it a continuous process that we got to keep going on? Diversity and inclusion.
So, in a nutshell, so diversity is something that's been talked a lot in US and UK, where even the racial diversity and inclusion is a big topic there. And they've been talking about it for last 40, 50 years. And in India, at least probably last 10 to 15 years is when the concept has come in. And we still have a long way. World Economic Forum has said that the gender pay parity to bridge the gap is going to take another 200 years.
Oh
It
boy.
is a huge one, right? And there is still so much of discrimination. You take the Fortune 500 companies, only 6.6 percentage are women CEOs. Can you beat that? And only 15% are of people of color. So, and that is and that's in the boardroom, right? So so this is going to take a long time to bridge the gap. And Trust me, the next generation that is there, the millennials, they are a huge, diverse lot, and they are not going to tolerate any form of discrimination or um, keeping them out of the loop. So it's important that we have an inclusive mindset. It's going to take a long time, and it's an ongoing process.
But Vijay, I'm going to turn it around, put you in a spot here. Aren't we just looking at westernization and aping it? Don't we have diversity and inclusion as a part of our culture? Don't we have any local reports that we can talk and figure out? Because Fortune 500 and the bigger part is very good. But I represent a small to medium sized enterprise, as to you, and a whole lot. That is where the grassroots start off. So, what would be your take on it? We are going to cover diversity in marketing, but that's my final question to you in the first section.
Lovely. So diversity. Okay, so let me take gender first. Okay, gender is 50%, almost 50-50. We are there, men and women, right? Because the LGBTQ community probably that's 5% of the population. The disability is around 15%. But gender, okay. So tell me, we have 50-50% population. Women are one intelligent lot with all the 10th grade, 12th grade marks that you see. And in the workforce, how many women are there at your workplace? For instance, you don't have to tell me the number, but I think we all know. And in your leadership levels, how much women do you have? And this is across the board. Women are dropping out of the workforce. The moment they are like 23, 24, oh, the women might get married, the interest might be different. The moment they are into the once married, oh, she might go on maternity leave, let me not hire her. And probably middle-aged women, oh, teenage kids, adolescent kids, elderly parents, oh, again, baggages. That is the thought process where we are one talented workforce. Organizations are not able to utilize. And that is what is peaking. The numbers in the boardrooms. Women are not there. Women are not there in the leadership, right? So that is something that's very, very important. And that is something, that is what we are all working towards, bringing in as organization, utilize, maximize the best of talent. And that is what is going to help your organization. When you bring the best of talent, it's going to be a healthy competition, and
Mhm.
the innovation, the productivity levels of your organization is definitely going to increase. And that is the benefit that organizations want to capture. And you will be able to capture a diverse customer base as well with your diverse employee base.
Beautiful. That answer lets us beautifully segue into diversity in marketing, which is the topic of our talk. Diversity in marketing, Viji, your thoughts?
Lovely. So, diversity in marketing. So, marketing has multiple aspects in terms of your the content, the communication, the ads that you do, the videos, audio. So, when you're looking at it from the marketing perspective, one is all these collaterals, and the other is the customer base, right? So, is your marketing team tapping the entire customer base? Are your collaterals targeting each and every customer segment, right? So when I say the 15% of disability population, right? Microsoft once got a feedback that their gaming controllers, they are not disabled friendly. So immediately they came out with a huge, beautiful marketing campaign. They came out with the product as well. They tapped in that 15% market segment, right? So that is something that's very important. Listen to your market and target that marginalized group, that underrepresented group. Are you targeting them? A simple example, a sachet packet of cough syrup that is selling for tier 2, tier 3 segments. For the last
Mhm.
20 years, they were having only a male figure picture on their product, right? So what is this communicating to the tier 2, tier 3 segment, which is majorly people who cannot read? They look at the picture, they say, give me the green packet, and they purchase that. And when that picture is having only a male face, male adult face, drinking the cough syrup,
Mhm.
that organization tapping the young children in that segment. Because if only when they change the pictures and they have probably a child's face, it strikes with the end customers stating that, hey, probably this is also applicable for children. Otherwise, they think that that cough syrup is only for the adults. So that is what it's important as when you're marketing, look at your diverse customer base. It's your collaterals representing each and every segment. Keep changing different things, and be very sensitive about the cultural aspects. Do not hurt damage, do not hurt any of the thing. And the current millennials, they are quick to change the brand loyalty. If they think that they do not have a brand,
Ah,
they will immediately jump to the competitor, right? And that is something that is very, very, very important. So look at it from the language that you speak, the cultural aspect. There was this another YouTube video on Dolce Gabbana. So that fashion brand, they were getting into the market of China. So there was a beautiful model with their fashion, the dress, and they were trying to eat. So this is an Italian brand, and they're trying to get into the Chinese market. And the model is representing using the chopsticks, trying to eat these spaghettis or the pasta and the pizza using the chopsticks. And they thought that was a great commercial, but it just did the opposite. It showed the Chinese as completely, I think they do not know how to use the chopsticks. They know that definitely they are a civilized society as well. So finally, the founders had to come out and apologize to the Chinese market. So it's very
right.
important
To,
how culturally you
to,
are
to
sensitive.
me, to me, Viji, there is a need for empathy in whoever is responsible for leading the company or marketing. In a practical example, every time I open the newspaper, the front page has a whole lot of transliterated Hindi. I understand Hindi, so it's fine, but they are spending and splurging on a full page ad all through down south and trying to talk in a language that or a culture that people don't understand. Um, to me, the diversity in marketing, my understanding from what you say, is the empathy that goes behind saying, who is my market? What are the individual segments? And what you beautifully put it up as marginalized or underrepresented segments, what I would call micro markets that have needs of their own. And we cannot have a national statute saying, hey, it's common, this is one India, which is never going to be the case. But are you aware of any? I know you are working on your next book and there's quite a lot of research that you are getting involved in, but as an example, can you state something Indian where a communication or marketing or an advertisement has turned contrary and started affecting a particular brand?
Hmm, turn contrary, more than turning contrary, I can look at positive examples, right?
Oh,
Uh,
please.
the, uh, the the typical stereotype, how women are represented in ads, cleaning, cooking, they're not represented in the leadership role. It's always the men in the working class, right? And the women with dark skin, they are in the lower class, with fair skin in the upper class. I think these are some of the stereotypes that goes in the commercials, right? Share the load. Ariel's advertisements on sharing the load beautifully turned around on how men can come and support and do the laundry, right? That picked out very well and that went viral. It connected. I think that connect and the trust, that is what is important. And also, I think I'm not sure the Bima jewelry ad in India, I'm not sure if you've seen it, a beautiful
Mhm.
ad that you should actually go and look up. It went viral. Jewelry ad. What they did was they took they showed a man converting into a woman, becoming a trans woman, and how the family was beautifully welcoming and accepting that transformation and gifting with gold jewelry. Again, went viral. And that is something that is what marketing does, right? So when you said, can diversity actually double the growth? When these kind of commercials, when it goes viral, why not, right? So that is what helps in your growth as well.
Right. So the first learning for me is empathy, but the second is also an organizational thought change. Viji, how can I bring about an organizational thought change in my own business, for example? How do I go ahead and do that?
I think all that you do is start from the leadership. Diversity and inclusion is a mindset that has to change.
Mhm.
Overcoming bias and stereotypes. The conversation has to start from the top, from the management, and then it has to flow down. Walk the talk, set the example, and it's not something that's going to change overnight, but it is going to take some time. Organizations have taken 4 5 years to achieve their goals and missions, and it does yield results. So definitely there are benefits in having a diverse and inclusive market. Definitely the productivity, the innovation factor, because I think you're losing out on the group thing. When you have a diverse group, a diverse thought process comes in, and that results in innovation as well. So I think these are some of the benefits definitely that organizations want to tap, because your competitors are tapping that. So if you want to stay up the game, you have to be there.
Oh, without a doubt, absolutely, Vijay. But even when there's a leadership change, a marketing thought process, there is an organizational issue of translating that right through the rank and file. So I understand what you're talking about, because when we run ideation sessions, there is a need to bring diversity in, to have views and counter views and different perspectives. But in this case, bringing about a thought change into the organization, be it gender, orientation, whatever be the case, even if the leadership is convinced, it always comes down to how do I convince the rank and file and the people that, hey, we mean business, this is necessary. How do we communicate that across? I know you run workshops and a few others, so if you could share something that would be really beneficial, not just for me, but also for the listeners and viewers here.
Right. So I think, yes, I think again, diversity is a huge thing, right? When we talk about gender or sexual orientation, disability. So I think identify which business are you in, right? Your industry. Look at it and accordingly take. So for my example, one industry that I work with, when I work with them, for them, gender is a priority. Gender or culture, having people from different regions, that's something that's very important. So slowly they are working on that. And always people come back with the excuse saying we can't find women in tech. It was Lady Ada Lovelace who started the programming. Why can't you find women in tech? It's all about training, adapting, right? So I think Ashok Leyland again has a beautiful story where they started training, adopting school children, 10th, 12th grade women, and they started giving them accommodation, training them, and building them up, nurturing them. I think though it's a long time process, they can afford it. I think somewhere they are starting that. That is with the manufacturing segments. Hotel industries, Lemon Tree. I'm sure you've been to Lemon Tree. You will notice their kitchen. They have started using people with neurodiversity, neurodisability in terms of having autistic folks there. Their housekeeping staffs are people who have speech and hearing impairment. So, and I'm sure you've seen the a person who carries the bellboy. The person is again deaf and mute. So, I think very, very important for understanding which segment you're in. The metros, the MRTS railway stations in different cities in India, Noida, Chennai, they've started hiring people from the transgender community, because they think that hey, these metros, if they're strong enough to man that thing, and they come with their strengths, right? So it's important to identify which industry you are and accordingly start doing that. Lemon Tree again was a beautiful thing. They made beautiful commercials around that, and that resulted in higher productivity for them, lower attrition, and it enhanced their brand value. Customers started trusting that brand, so people started going in there. And how the marketing team also beautifully did some videos around that.
That is brilliant, Viji. You are aware that Anu and I run Kriya and Kesa, Kriya Knowledge and Kesa, and for the last 12 years, we have been skilling and employing people with disabilities. But I can tell you that the clashes continue to come between what I call the regular people and the people with disabilities in terms of functioning. There's a whole lot of benefit. There is a lot more focus on productivity, but the friction continues in terms of, hey, yes, there is a bit of an empathy, but we've been doing it for over a decade, Vijay, and I still don't have an answer. So that's not for this talk. I'm going to pick your brains for that a bit later, because that's a much longer part. But even with the leadership in, there is a whole lot of adoption issues that come in. I'm pretty certain the rest of the market also is facing through. But lovely examples from you on Bima and Ashok Leyland and what that has gone through. But can diversity double my growth? I'm sure the listeners and viewers are also want to know. Yes, there is innovation, there is ideation, there is a cross pollination of ideas. What else?
Yes, so I think there has been a lot of research that has gone in by various. McKinsey has done a lot of research across the globe. Multiple organizations have done research, and definitely it is proven that there is 20% increase in productivity, 20% increase in innovation factor when you have that diverse group. And definitely doing these kind of viral marketing and all, so I think it definitely increases the brand value, the trust and the connect. That is what is important, definitely. And so for example, another beautiful example in India, the Kirloskar pumps, motor pumps based off Coimbatore, they have an all women plant, and they realized that the productivity of the all women plant versus the all male plant, this productivity was 25% more higher. So I think then so what they realized is they started bringing in some women into the male plant as well, just to bring that healthy competition, right? So it definitely creates that healthy competition, the productivity, and definitely thought process changes. So it is a slow change. It cannot happen overnight, but definitely a slow change. And definitely organizations are going to get the benefits. There have been reports that's proven. A lot of case scenarios are there, like having a diverse group. A BPO that I know of, they were struggling when they had a lot of Hindu employees. They realized that majority of their employees were Hindus, and during Diwali time, majority of the workforce was on leave, and that is where they were having 24/7 support. They were struggling to attend to their customer calls. What they did beautifully again brought in people from diverse communities and diverse religions. Problem solved, right? These are small, small things that it definitely helps solve your problems and definitely increases your growth. So it is something, it's no longer a fad. It is something that is to stay. And definitely in India, it's going to take a long, long, long time. In US, you've seen US, UK, it is a family, both of them have to work. Both partners have to work. Whereas in India, still the mindset is that, okay, women can take a back seat to take care of the family, right? I think that thought process has to change. When that changes, the 50% of the population, they start coming to the workforce, I think it's definitely going to contribute to the spending power of the family and the GDP of the nation. The economy is going to go better. And that is what we are looking for in the long run as well. And that is what the governments are striving as well.
Viji, do you have politics on your agenda at any point in time? Because it was a lovely speech that you gave right there. But that brings me to a couple of really important questions, especially in terms of diversity in marketing. Is it just a fad? Are we just aping the Western world?
Definitely not. So it did start there because they did talk about the racial discrimination that was happening, the gender discrimination, gender pay parity, gender gap. It did start, the ideas did start, and this is something definitely required. So across the globe, right? Women do more unpaid labor compared to the men. That is something that's there across in all countries. There's no, the gap is zero, not zero anywhere else. In India, the difference is 5 hours. In US, it's 2.5 hours. The difference, the unpaid labor of women as compared to that men, right? So I think this is something that is going to, it'll take a long time for us to bridge the gap, and we need to keep having that conversation. Pride Month, June, that we celebrated, I think it is again, it's been happening for the last 20, 30 years now. And still people are struggling to come out of closets. So definitely there is a long journey ahead for us to bridge all the gaps and to bring an inclusive mindset.
Right. Here's my request to you, and it's of course live and open. Viji, I would love to collaborate company to company with you, because there are hardly any major studies that are quoted that are pretty Indian, with an Indian sample size and representativeness. We continue to quote the international folks. So it's an open request to see if our companies can collaborate and come up with a research study specific to India and diversity and inclusion. That's an open request to you. And of course, if you are aware of any such reports, please let us know right now, or even later we can share it with our audience.
I think NASCOM has also done some beautiful research with ITITS segments, and I think there are a lot of reports. So since I've been working with a lot of organizations, all these thoughts are coming in. But definitely there have been a lot of study that's been done and a lot of reports available.
Good. As the questions flow in, When you talk about the need for diversity and inclusion with CEOs and companies, Viji, what is the biggest resistance that you faced?
So the thought process, it varies organization to organization. A lot of times, some companies, they come to us because it is an agenda from their global headquarters. So that is when they want to go ahead and implement. And there are other organizations, they have a problem statement, like the one that I said, that hey, my organization is somewhere, we become a majority Muslim organization, and because of that we are finding problems during the festival times where people are taking leave, and that homogeneous thought process comes in. So they come out with problem statements and then we help them sort. Or the agenda is driven from the global thing. There are few organizations like Ashok Leyland and all. They have started looking at. I mean, they are setting the path for organizations where they realize that hey, this is not something that is done. They're going to miss out on the bus, and that's something that they definitely want to pick up. There are few organizations that started it as their agenda. It's one of their KPIs that's set for all the leaders, all the departments to meet their diversity goals. So different organizations vary in their process of implementation.
But when you go ahead and tell these people, Viji, that if you bring in diversity, you can double your growth, I'm pretty sure that the resistance is going to get knocked off. We have one question from the audience. What are some quick steps I can take to ensure I am establishing diversity in my workplace?
Okay, lovely. So quick thing is, first study your demographics, study your employee base. How diverse is that? And not just at the overall org level, look at it from the different roles as well. So definitely probably a big gender mix is there at the entry level, whereas at this management level, senior level, do you still have that mix? That is one thing. First study your employee base. Next, look at each and every process. How is your hiring process? Is it inclusive enough? How are your promotion cycles happening? How your bonus cycle? Is there any form of discrimination that's happening there? Are there any bias in terms of communication? Simple things like many people have come and told that I feel that when people start talking in Tamil, I feel excluded. I'm from North India, so I don't understand these things. I feel excluded. Simple things to ensure people feel belongingness in the organization. That's something that's very important. So subtle things, start with an unconscious bias workshop to overcome all the biases and the stereotypes that are there, right? So simple things like the first impression, is it really important? Or asking at the time of interviewing or hiring, asking a women employee, when do you plan to start your family? These are completely questions that are not relevant at all. Look at the talent, look at the skill set. So that is what is important. And if there is an agenda or goal, fix on that goal, on what is it, that which specific part of diversity that we want to focus on, and start working towards that. And that is definitely going to important. So just to recap, look at your, what is your current how diverse is your current organization. If there is a definite need, then start working on that. Slowly start the trainings as well, in terms of unconscious bias, what is inclusive mindset, and then look at each and every process. Does your policy and process, are they inclusive from the inclusive lens? So that is what I would recommend.
Beautiful, Vijay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Diversity, not just in the workplace, but also in customers, customer segments, clients, vendors, and partners. Thanks a lot. Diversity to double your growth. I'm looking forward to your keynote and workshop in this line. Thank you very much for joining us today, Vijay. And all you listeners and viewers, you can check out Vijay's profile on LinkedIn. Viji Hari, her company is Cecureus. Thank you very much for tuning in. I am signing out, Pravin Shekar, an Outlier Marketer and host of the Outlier Marketer Show. Until we meet again.
Thank you. Thank you, Praveen. Thanks to all the listeners. Do not forget the 4 C's that I would like to sum up with, especially from the marketing perspective. The number one, look at your customer base. Number two, your collaterals. Does it speak a language that is very inclusive? your connect, how's your connect with the customers, and build that trust and joy when you have that connect in terms of your collaterals, your communication, and the customer base. That is when the connect comes, and that leads to joy and trust among your customers.
Beautiful. So, Viji, like a Marvel movie, there's learning even in the credits, and it continues. Thank you very much.